So I'm a DM of 2 long-running campaigns right now, a player in one and run some random one-shots here and there. And a big problem I see in the D&D and tabletop RPG community is players and DMs alike saying they're having trouble making interesting, meaningful encounters and quests for their games. And so I'm starting this series, where I take a monster, environment, god, or whatever else I deem worthy, and create an encounter surrounding it so that you can feel free to steal and modify it for use in your games. Now these videos won't be entirely written out quest lines, but more so just me spitballing some encounter ideas I've either used or would use in a game. As you can tell already, this one's going to involve frost giants, and I will show you an encounter where I used them in a way that engaged my players and was able to tie them seamlessly into the story. Just a heads up, I'll be using D&D 5th edition rules and stats when explaining things, but I tend to make my encounters adaptable enough that they can be tossed into a number of tabletop RPGs. So the little checklist of things I like to go through when making an encounter are the basic info on how the monster is perceived, the environment the encounter will be in, the setup to the encounter, the NPC Dating Profile, the conflict and how it will be resolved, and then I think about a few ways that I can make this encounter spicier. So let's start with the basic info. Frost giants are huge and heavy, like over 15 feet tall and weigh over 1,200 kilograms. They're usually depicted with white or pale blue skin, and gray, white, blue, or yellow hair. They're often outfitted like stereotypical Vikings with basic armor, pelts, and big weapons, usually great axes, and do a buttload of physical damage. They respect strength and fighting skills and use it to determine the hierarchy, with the leader of their village usually being the strongest member of the clan, and that is known as the Jarl. The similarity to Vikings continues since they obtain a lot of what they need through raiding, pillaging, and hunting, although they're not opposed to trade. They're very strong and physically imposing, but aren't particularly hot on the mental and magical stats. However, this leads into the next important thing I want to talk about, which is how they are perceived. Just because a monster is one thing, that doesn't mean that's how your party in-game and out-of-game views the creature. And playing on one's perceptions can lead to a lot of fun and interesting conflict. For example, yes, frost giants have a 9 intelligence, which leads people to thinking that they're just big stupid brutes that do a lot of damage. However, that's only slightly below average, meaning they should be able to keep up with what's going on around them like the average adventurer would. But of course, you can also play into the fact people see frost giants as stupid and make them even dumber to create a more comical NPC, or perhaps a more deadly one since it can't be reasoned with. But now that we have all the general information we need to know about frost giants, let's start crafting an encounter. So the environment and the setup to the encounter are pretty interchangeable steps, but we're going to start with the environment for frost giants. So, where is this encounter going to take place? And also, a more overlooked aspect when it comes to encounters, how is the environment going to shape the encounter, if at all? Now, the more out of place a creature is to where you would typically encounter them, the more questions that are going to come up. For example, running into a frost giant in the mountains will have a party more focused on what's going on in front of them. However, if the party was exploring a laboratory located in the mouth of a volcano, and then they ran into a frost giant, their focus is going to shift to, why is there a frost giant here? Both are totally fine routes to take, but for this encounter, let's keep it more traditional and say that they're located in a northern mountain range. Now, are they all over the place and people can expect to run into them at any time, or are they more rare and secluded? For this encounter, I made them more localized into an area surrounded by mountains so steep and hellish that there's only one path to take to get to them, for the average person at least, which is guarded by Cragrock, the dwarven capital city in my homebrew world. And then I made it one of the main reasons the settlement was built there in the first place, to stop frost giants from roaming around the province and raiding. Now, because they're in the mountains, there's a lot of snow, and because the area is blocked off by a heavily guarded city, there are not a lot of roads and foot traffic. So now I have the option to toss in difficult terrain due to the party having to trudge their feet through the heavy snow, making it so cold that they need to frequently huddle around fires or risk hypothermia. And you can also toss in the threat of an avalanche or two if you're feeling extra spicy or cruel that session. What makes many encounters meaningful is the build up toward them. Where is the party at in their campaign? What has the party encountered before? What is their mindset? What quests are they currently on? What is the party composition? And most importantly, why the hell would they go to this remote and potentially dangerous area of the world? These are just some of the questions you should take into consideration. For this encounter, we are going to use this example party. They are a group of level 5 adventurers. There is a warforged fighter, a high elf sorcerer, a goblin ranger, a gnome rogue, and a Luxodon cleric. The Ranger is a Beastmaster who has an ape as his companion. The Arcane Trickster Rogue has a flying familiar they use. And the party also has an Orc Warrior NPC with them that is somewhat around their level in terms of ability. Now for time's sake, I'll give the most bare bones explanation of where they are in the campaign. There are 5 powerful rogue mages looking for 5 powerful magical items, and the party's mission is to find the items before they do. A wizard NPC told them to check out some ruins dedicated to the god of time in my world. Since a powerful cleric is there exploring the ruins and should have some information for the party on these rogue mages, and may even possibly know where one of the magical items is located. So I placed these ruins in the Frost Giant territory, giving them a reason to go there. To A, gain more intel on these mysterious mages, and B, find out where this magical item is. The party also currently have another side quest going on right now, which is the daughter of a dwarven military captain is missing, and the captain has issued a reward for anyone that can find her. This gives me the option to potentially tie a side quest into the main quest, which is almost always a bonus, since the party can kill 2 birds with 1 stone upon proper investigation. Now, since the main antagonists of the story are magic users, Frost Giants are a solid choice for an additional encounter since their focus is on physical damage, giving the party some variety in combat should it come to blows. I also know after running multiple sessions with this group, combat is generally not their first choice, so I know sprinkling in a way or two to avoid combat would be appreciated by the party. However, if it does come to blows, how will this party fare? How deadly do I want this encounter to be? Well, I personally like my combat situations to be challenging, but not necessarily deadly unless they're fighting one of the main antagonists, or they're in a particularly dangerous part of the world. So realistically, being heavy-hitting CR8 monsters, 2 Frost Giants is the max number I would toss at this party. If the party focuses on one at a time and uses their healing and control magic effectively, they should be able to take out these giants in about 4 rounds. Now, a good rule of thumb I like to go by when creating a combat encounter is, what happens if these monsters crit 3 times? Because that definitely happens from time to time. I've had owlbears crit 7 times in a combat encounter and almost TPK a party. Well, a Frost Giant's Great Axe does about 25 damage on average, so the average crit would be around 50 damage. And at level 5, the member of the party with the highest max HP has 52 health, and they currently don't have many consistent memes to reduce physical damage other than the fighter's parry ability. The person with the lowest health has a max HP of 30, meaning a particularly nasty crit could straight up instant kill the sorcerer. So since I don't want this to be a deadly encounter, that rules out any Frost Giant ambushes from behind where the sorcerer tends to hang out. So 3 critical hits could be devastating to this party, however, they do have a cleric who focuses primarily on healing and plays rather smart, so as long as he doesn't charge in recklessly, they should be able to handle this combat even with a few critical hits coming at them. Now, onto what I dub the NPC Dating Profile. If you've ever used a dating app, website, or have seen how dating profiles are depicted in film and TV, you might have a sense of what I'm talking about. This is essentially your NPC's likes and dislikes in the most basic form. As soon as I started making these, even in their most simplest form, it made crafting encounters so much simpler. Even just having 2 or 3 bullet points to refer to during an encounter can immensely help you stay true to the NPCs you've created. So, they'll run into 2 Frost Giants, let's call them Weglog and Bakar. So, they like fighting, weapons and armor, good hearty meat, and they're very proud of their clan. And their dislikes, well, they hate people that are weak or cowardly, they hate sharing of any kind, whether it's land, food, or whatever, and they also really hate it when people comment on or mock their intelligence. So let's quickly go over the implication of these likes and dislikes. The party will already be at a disadvantage if spotted by the giants since their natural instinct will be to fight. However, say the party gives them big slabs of meat, well, maybe they'll be more willing to hear what the party has to say. Also, let's say the giants try to scare the party but one of the members stands their ground and rises to the challenge. Maybe if the player succeeds on a performance or intimidation check or something like that, they can earn the giants' respect. Now, we can finally create the conflict or physical encounter itself. So the ruins are located in Frost Giant territory in a cave within one of the mountains. Let's place 2 Frost Giants at the opening of the cave. Since the cave is on giant land and we've made these giants very territorial, we now have a conflict. Our party wants to enter the cave, and the giants don't want to let them in, and if the giants spot the party, they will try and stop them. We'll say as long as the party isn't sprinting directly at the giants or making any absurd amount of noise as they travel through the mountains, they have the opportunity to spot these giants beforehand from a ledge above and can stay hidden until they think of a strategy to deal with them. So, what's the conflict and how do we resolve it? Well, there is the popular run in and kill everything strategy, which is always viable. But what are some other ways they can handle this? Well, I know that my cleric has the create food and water spell. Maybe he can summon some meat for the giants to pay for passage. Maybe the arcane trickster rogue or the sorcerer can create some illusions to distract the giants while the rest of the party slips in. Maybe they could cause some explosions, creating an avalanche that buries the giants underneath the snow, and maybe they accidentally plug the hole of the cave as well. And of course there are tons of other ways that you or I may not even think of, but the party definitely will, so be ready for that. Of course, all these ideas rely on the party to come up with and execute on, and sometimes your players don't always bring their thinking caps to the session. So, what if you created an immediate problem for the giants the party could solve? What I did was placed dozens of humanoid skeletons with weapons lying dead at the mouth of the cave. If the party investigates, they can notice that the giants have cuts on their legs, signifying they were attacked by these creatures. And it looks like from where the skeletons lie and the footprints that they left, they came pouring out of the cave. I made it so the time magic within the ruins of the cave was messing with the dead adventurers that came before and were reanimating the corpses. If the party talks to the giants, they can make a deal with them. They tell the party these skeletons won't stop coming out of the cave, and the giants will let them inside only if they promise to stop the problem for good. If you want to create even further conflict, you can have the giants waiting for the party to come out of the cave and have them demand the party leave any treasure they found with the giants, saying they own everything on the land. The party can then choose to either do so, fight the giants, lie, or a smattering of other things. You could also have the giants demand the party wait for a few days so the giants can confirm the problem has been solved. If the party has another time-sensitive quest, they may either have to fight the giants or think of a way to escape or negotiate. So, with all that, we've created a nicely rounded out encounter that can go many ways. But, what if you want to make it spicier, or take it to the next level? Well, you can play against type and have the giants be brimming intellectuals who will let the party pass only if they document interesting things about the ruins, and bring back any books and such. If the party was a little higher level, you could say, being frost giants, that they have tapped into the elements and can cast frost magic, surprising the party and giving them an extra thing to consider during combat. What if these giants couldn't speak or understand common at all, so the party has to find other ways to communicate with them, leading to some good laughs and role-playing. Earlier, I made these giants love meat, but what if they love vegetables and fruits but never get to eat them because of their climate, and will gush over an adventurer that gives them an apple? What I did was something I suggested earlier, and tied a side quest into the main one. I gave the giants finely made and seemingly brand new hide armor. If the party conducted an investigation check and rolled well enough, they could notice that the stitching in the hide armor was so small and so precise that there was no way that a frost giant with their big dumb hands could have made it. Upon further questioning, they can discover that the giants are in possession of the military captain's missing daughter, and some local gnomish thugs kidnapped her and sold her to the giants. With this information, the party could negotiate the dwarf's release in exchange for clearing out the ruins. I particularly chose this path because not only does it potentially speed up playtime by letting the party tackle multiple problems at once, but if the party is interested, it creates an avenue for them to explore later if they choose to. Can a level 5 party take on a whole clan of frost giants? No, but they can level up and come back later if they deem these giants to be evil and want to stop any other dwarves from suffering the same fate. It also lets them investigate these gnomes and try to stop this slave ring that is circulating through the dwarven capital city. Anyways, here's the end of this long video. It ended up being way longer than I expected, but I also ended up explaining my process a bit more than I intended in the first place. But hopefully it gave you some insight into the encounter making process and gave you some ideas on how to incorporate frost giants into your story. Do you know any other cool ways to incorporate frost giants into your campaign? Leave them in the comments below so I can nerd out over them and slap myself for not thinking about them. If there are any other creatures or situations you would like me to create encounters for, feel free to leave a comment on this video. I'm going to aim to come out with one of these videos every week, so if you're interested, subscribe and stick around for more nerdy-ass content. Thanks for watching, and for indulging my hidden nerdy side.